Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. I was going through my endless pile of stuff around here, and I came across a wonderful little box, 7 CDs, it's not that little, that I wanted to talk to you about because it's very easy to overlook these things in the welter of things that get released. It's a budgie box. It's very inexpensive, and it's quite marvelous, and there's some really special stuff in it. I'm referring to this one. Riccardo Muti conducts Italian Masters. Now, there were a bunch of LPs that came out. There's a story here. Let's talk about the story. Once upon a time, there was a record label called Columbia. Columbia was purchased by the very, very wealthy and very, very ambitious and not entirely very smart Japanese conglomerate called Sony. Now, Sony was obsessed, the head of Sony at that time was obsessed with Herbert von Karajan. The problem was that Herbert von Karajan was writing, was conducting, was playing, whatever he did. He waved his hands around. And he was doing that for Deutsche Grammophon, the yellow label, the yellow peril, as it used to be called sometimes. And the only thing that was available of Herbert von Karajan was his videos. His videos were, I don't know. You'd have to be crazy to want to watch Karajan videos, but people did evidently, or Sony wanted them. So Sony got the videos for crazy, crazy, crazy amount of money. And they also started to filch other artists from other major labels to try and build up their cred, at least in Japan. And so they got Claudio Abbado, at least initially, and they got Riccardo Muti, and they got Carlo Maria Giulini. Remember that? He did sort of almost a Beethoven cycle with the Orchestra of La Scala, and he did his last recordings with the Concertgebouw and with the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra. All of that stuff showed up on Sony. They were, by and large, not very smart choices because they were duplicating repertoire like crazy. Ridiculously and absurdly, and generally contributing to the ridiculous glut of material that led to the complete collapse of the classical music industry in the 90s and the destruction of civilization as we know it, from which we are still struggling to emerge. So one of these, scrapings was Riccardo Muti, who of course is still around. He's over in Chicago and remaking for Chicago all the things he remade everybody else on Chicago's label. It's a lot of these people have kind of run out of ideas. But the Muti stuff that they did, the Riccardo Muti stuff that they did, which was all with La Scala, right? Yes, the La Scala Symphony Orchestra, was largely very interesting. It's somewhat proprietary, wonder of wonders. And it was really, really good stuff. And now it's all in this little 7 CD box. And I'm going to tell you what it is. I have to say, on a purely personal note, I have a certain affection for the Orchestra of La Scala because my family married into it. That is, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, had a grandfather who was the principal second violin in La Scala for about several thousands of decades. Back in the 40s and 30s and 40s and 50s. And so, and his mother had some wonderful, programs and La Scala memorabilia and, autographs from people like Toscanini and Dmitri Mitropoulos and things that he got along the way. It was really quite marvelous to, be part of that heritage, to see that heritage in operation. So here's to my Italian family. This video is dedicated to all of you. Let's look and see what's on this 7-disc set. Here they are. This is going to be a fairly quick one, to the relief of any of you who sat through my Mahler third talk or my Bruckner sixth talk. This is Italian music. It moves more quickly. In fact, I do have to tell you one other story that was really, very funny. A friend of mine and I had a subscription to the Metropolitan Opera House, And it was like, for some reason, the subscription we got was like all German stuff. It was Die Frauen Schatten and Wagner, and I think The Ring was on it that year. And we were seeing one big, long, heavy, slow Wagnerian opera after another. And the only Italian opera in the series was Verdi's Otello. So we went to see Otello, and we're sitting there through the first act, and it ends, and we just looked at each other and we said, "That's it?" I mean, it went so fast. It was over so quickly. I mean, Otello is not really short. I mean, it's a good 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 50 minutes. Boy, it just breezed along. After all that German stuff, it was so refreshing to see nice, zippy Italian music. So let's see what zippy Italian music Riccardo Muti provides. First, this is in some ways the best disc of all, disc 1. You get Alfredo Casella's Paganiniana, this lovely, lovely divertimento for orchestra on tunes by Paganini. Now, we're going to do a talk on Casella, so don't worry. Casella was a major composer, a wonderful, wonderful composer who underwent a fascinating stylistic evolution, and he's only just begun to sort of come into his own with 2 series of recordings on Chandos and Naxos, and we'll have them and we'll be able to play examples, and it's going to be lots of fun. But right now, you get Paganiniana, and you get 2 little works by Giuseppe Martucci, who is known as the Brahms of Italy, largely because he's sometimes as dull as Brahms is. The Notturno in G-flat, the Noveletta, and the Giga. These are lovely little short pieces. And finally, Busoni's Turandot Suite, which you've heard before, whether or not you know it. Why? Because there's a movement called Turandot's Frauengemach, which is her antechamber, her dressing room, basically, where she's surrounded by her lovely attendants, and they're singing a lovely Chinese tune, and that Chinese tune happens to be Green Sleeves. You know it. So did Busoni, evidently. He thought it was Chinese. Anyway, this is a fantastic disc of really, really worthwhile Italian music. And so, and this whole set cost like $20, $25. I mean, this is what one of these discs cost almost, and contemporary dollars. Discs then $12 to $15 each, something like that. So you got 2 of these discs, and you can get the whole set now. It's amazing. Next, we get Martucci. We get La Canzone dei Ricordi with Mirella Freni. I mean, wow, Mirella Freni. And La Canzone is sort of like it's how do I describe it? It's kind of like a song cycle sort of thing. Yeah, it's an orchestral song cycle. Very, very, very beautiful. And it's really one of his finest works. And it's eminently worth having, even though you don't get any texts or translations, and who cares? We listen to it anyway, and it sounds very Italian. And the Piano Concerto No. 2 with Carlo Bruno piano. Now, the second piano concerto, like I said, is very, very Brahmsian and can be very, very, very dull. But this is a very, very good performance of it, and so we don't need to worry about that. It's a worthy work. Martucci was a workman-like German symphonist, basically. That's sort of what he was, except when he was writing the canzone, which is, a little bit more, in keeping with his Italian roots. So that's a wonderful disc worth having, and you're not going to find this music elsewhere. The second piano concerto, yes, but the canzone, not so much. Next, we get some wonderful orchestral pieces by otherwise Italian opera composers. We get the Elegy by Ponchielli, and we have Alfredo Catalani. Remember Catalani? La Valle, that's that wonderful song, aria that was popular for like 10 minutes because it was in a movie. Remember Ben Leandro Lontano, whatever that thing was called? But we get his scherzo in A major, his, what's this thing? Contemplazione. It's a contemplation of nothing in particular. And then the 3 big orchestral works of Puccini, the Prelude Sinfonico, the Preludio Sinfonico, his intermezzo called La Tragedia, and the Capriccio Sinfonico, which, I mean, these are wonderful to have. One of them, Capriccio has the opening of La Bohème, that thing. But it's really, those are lovely works and early works and lots of fun. And that's another terrific disc. I mean, all these performances are first rate. And then we have 2 discs, here they are, of Verdi Preludes and Overtures. 2 full discs. I mean, what's not to love? It's, the best couple of discs of Verdi Preludes and Overtures you're ever going to hear. And you get all of them. You get stuff that you never heard of. You get I Due Foscari. You get, you get Oberto. You get I Lombardi. You get Un Giorno di Regno. You get Il Corsaro. You get Alzira. You get Hernani and Stifelio and I Masnadieri and Luisa Miller and La Battaglia di Legnano and oh my goodness, I mean Nabucco and Giovanni d'Arco. Oh, it's just great. These are wonderful, and you're not going to find them anywhere else. I mean, not all of this stuff. There are, of course, other discs of Verdi Overtures and Preludes. I mean, Karajan did one, heck, But here they are in this incredibly convenient little package, this little box. And they're just waiting for you to come and snap them up, which I know you're going to do without fail. Anyway, and then the last 2 discs. This is really fun stuff. First, these are all suites from Nino Rota film music. Now, Rota was a very, very good composer. His concert music has also been getting some play lately. There have been 3 sort of major series of his music, and I may talk about the one on Decca. It's run to about a dozen discs now. But you get The Godfather, What's Not to Love, and La Dolce Vita, and you get, the orchestral rehearsal, Prova d'Orchestra, and you get Il Gatto Pardo, the leopard, Il Gatto Pardo, which is sort of famous. But the best is number 7, because you get the suite from La Strada. Now, La Strada was 2 pieces. It was originally a film, obviously, and then he turned it into a full-length ballet, which is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's got this rumba in it, which I just love. I can't get out of my head. I turned it into a ringtone. It goes ba-dum ba-da-da, ba-dum ba-da-da, ba-dum ba-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, ba-dum ba-da-da, da-dum ba-da-da, da-dum da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now da-da-da-da, da-dum ba-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. It's actually a tricky little tune, and it takes a different turn each time it comes back. It's quite marvelous. It's a brilliant little bit of melodic crafting. And of course, Rota, as a concert composer, was a purely tonal and traditional composer in that respect, and so he was roundly ignored and reviled and chastised in the 60s and 50s, and because he was not a member of the avant-garde, which was even worse in Italy than it was anywhere else, because you had people like Luigi Dalla Piccola, and you had all the Darmstadt crew type people who were doing extremely gnarly things. Luigi Nono, who became Bruno Heinz Yaya for the Hoffnung music festivals. So Rota never had a chance. But now it is no longer a crime to perform his music. But this is 2 discs of absolutely first-rate music from the films. So that's the set. Muti conducts Italian masters. There's nothing more that needs to be said. It's fantastic performances, wonderfully recorded, and they are incredibly inexpensive. So I'm going to shut up and let you keep on listening. Thank you so much. Take care.